All right, we're going to give it about a minute until we get started.
I am last minute hair checks, right? You know, look all pretty.
You look great.
Thanks.
I can tell you've done your makeup today.
Yeah. It's with the humidity here though, it just melts off your face anyway.
Oh, we have Kate on the call too. Hi, Kate.
One of our #1 OpenSpace users.
Let's see. Give it about 45 seconds, give or take. Don't have a timer with me, but do my best to estimate. And it just reached the top of the hour, so once it turns the 1 minute mark, I'll get started. So are you in a conference room that you had to reserve?
No, that's why it's a little awkward. I'm on one of my job sites, and
Oh,
on a quiet room, there's like a back of house space that's kind of abandoned. So we're actually in that back space back there. That's why there might be a little bit of an echo too, but back they set up a little table for me and stuff because there's too much work going on in the open space for me to. Oh, open space, yeah. There's too much work going on in the open space out there for me to have a good conversation without too much noise.
yeah, no, I think it's better that you're on the job site, actually. It's very fitting. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining, everyone. Today's webinar is focused all on how Landis Construction uses OpenSpace to go and see. There are a lot of interesting topics that we're going to delve into today, but before we get started, quick housekeeping items. We are going to be covering time for questions at the end, but as you listen to our discussion today, please feel free to type any questions that you have in the chat, and also feel free to introduce yourself, share a little bit more about your role and where you're tuning in from. All right, so let's get started. So I'm Georgie, Customer Success Manager at OpenSpace, and I've been here for about 3 years, and my primary role is working with general contractors in the Southeast, ensuring that they're maximizing the use of OpenSpace on their projects. But the real star of the show today is Jeremy Atkinson. He's the process improvement and project manager, as well as lean coach and facilitator at Landis Construction Company, and he's in New Orleans. Jeremy has over 10 years of experience in civilian construction, including management and safety roles in various civil and commercial construction projects. Before entering civilian construction, Jeremy served as an airborne US Army combat engineer sapper, where he reached the rank of captain. And that's really where he honed his skills in leadership and management. Jeremy also has extensive training and experience in implementing lean principles and techniques. And he's currently a volunteer organizer for NOLA Lean, which is the Lean Construction Institute's New Orleans Community of Practice. So Jeremy, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, glad to be here.
Jeremy's in a job site trailer, so if there's a little echo, that's why he's in construction. Yeah. So Jeremy, could you give us a brief overview of Landis Construction Company and its mission?
Yeah, so Landis Construction is a little over 65 years old. We're a third-generation woman-owned business construction company with Auntie Landis as our current CEO. We're very proud of that. Some of the projects that we work on are varying from all levels, whether it's educational, schools, condos, healthcare, but we really pride ourselves in historic renovations. We do really well in that, and also too, we really pride ourselves too in always achieving or exceeding our minority business enterprise percentages. It's something big for us because it's a way we're giving back to the community, making sure we're really involving our community in our work that we do. And that kind of ties in a lot to what our real mission statement is. And without reading it out word for line by line, it can really be summed up a lot into building business by building relationships. And we do that too, really by focusing on not just our clients, we're focusing on our trade partners as well, but also putting our employees kind of at the top of that list, as well as our community. One of my favorite stories that I like to tell as it kind of relates to how we really pride ourselves on focusing on our employees and our community. It goes back to the COVID, right? When COVID first hit, I'm sure we all remember things were shutting down left and right. Even the construction industry was kind of considering, how do we handle this? How do we take a pause? But even so, Landis, we took a pause for a minute to kind of figure out how do we make our employees, how can they work as safe as possible. And a lot of my friends that work in construction or other industries or even other companies, when their companies did something similar, they were kind of like, shoot, what do I do? You know, I'm not getting paid for this time that I'm off. Well, Landis took care of every single one of our employees. I'm really proud to say that. And every time I tell that story, it's amazing how many people didn't have that same experience that we had. That all the way, all the hourly employees, all the way through to everyone made sure they got paid during the time that we took the pause. Then after we came back, every Friday we were bringing out job site lunches for the entire job site, and we made sure that we got those lunches from local community restaurants. It was something that we're pushing money and trying to help support our community and people around us. And that's a lot of what Landis is about. It's that community, it's about our employees, it's about giving back. Another thing that we really pride ourselves on too comes into our life. We're very big on humility and the idea of continuous improvement. That's why I love it and how we kind of tie into our lead principles. We're a company that understands that we can never hold the status quo. We're always going to be looking for the next best thing. Always, how do we make ourselves better? And we're always looking for doing that. And that kind of ties into how we use OpenSpace as well. As OpenSpace was a way for us to find a way to improve what we're providing to our owners, but also our employees and our clients and our customers, such as trade partners.
That's amazing. And, you know, it's a testament to Landis not only cares about its people, but trade partners and, you know, people that Landis works with, the projects that you work on. And I remember that time during COVID, and I'm glad that everyone was taken care of. Would love to learn a little bit more about your responsibilities within your role and really what your primary focus is.
Well, I wear a lot of hats at Landis. I am a project manager, so I do like, you know, typical project management stuff, working with teams. But really where I get my passion out of is when it comes to working with a bunch of different teams at Landis, but also working and focusing on things such as, you know, people development, working on training, trying to how do we develop training to improve our employees and develop them. But also looking at how we can improve our processes too, whether it's working with accounting on maybe some human resource processes or software we could be looking at with the Precon on how we bring things like OpenSpace to our teams. Or if it's even just working on how do we plan better, like what's the process? How do we better implement Last Planner or 5S or conducting Gemba walks on our job sites?
All about efficiency.
Yeah. How do we make things better for the actual people putting work into place?
Love it. Love it. Getting into really how Landis Construction uses OpenSpace, there are a lot of different teams that use OpenSpace in different ways that OpenSpace is used, but I'd like to start off with, you know, you being in New Orleans. I know that you recently implemented an insurance policy. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, shout out to my friend Michael, who's our local OpenSpace rep in the area. He does more of the insurance side of things too, but he was coming to some of our normal lean stuff, and he kind of brought up talking about how OpenSpace can be used within the insurance world. And it really helped. He came in and gave a great presentation to us, and it really helped us understand that we can implement OpenSpace for protection in our insurance, specifically when it comes to things like hurricanes, right? It's one of the biggest things we have down here. So what we do is when we know a storm's coming, the last things that we do before leaving the job site, we do an OpenSpace walk. After one of the first things we do when we get back, we do an OpenSpace walk. And that helps us push any damage claims through faster because we don't have to worry about trying to bring in an insurance adjuster. We don't have to share that with them. It's also really good too. It helps for the client when it comes to, you know, builder's risk, or even, you know, you get to know our job site damage their house. So a lot of times we can capture that ahead of time. That helps protect not only us, but actually our clients that we're working for, that, hey, no, look, this was pre-damage before the storm. This isn't something that you should have to worry about.
Right. And how long does that take you to go out and have your teams take captures on the various job sites in New Orleans?
Well, so length of time for doing something like that, you know, 30 minutes maybe, coming in and back. But, you know, it depends on the job site. We're actually taking captures, depends on how big it is. Some jobs take a lot longer as we're trying to capture certain data, or what we're trying to capture for too, because we're doing like a closed wall or something like that. It might be more specific what we're looking at, but it's for the amount of time it takes to do it, for the amount of money you're saving and protecting, it's worth every penny.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, even with that too, the amount that you can think too. So I know you guys have a program, and I'm not versed enough to talk to you about, but I think it's called Shepherd, where you're working with, I think it was Traveler or something. So by working with OpenSpace, they can get discounts within the insurance. And even, man, when it comes to insurance costs for a company, 0.5%, right, or even less than that pays for itself.
It really does. And it's simple. You just go out and capture everything. And then you have that documentation of the existing conditions before the storm hits. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I'm glad that you implemented it. Your Precon team also uses OpenSpace to take one-time captures. How does that help your teams just with collaboration and also, winning jobs?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Danny Krisovich, who's really helping lead the charge on that. He's like my battle buddy in OpenSpace. And so what he does on the Precon side, they can go out and you walk a job site. And sometimes maybe you only get that one time. It might be the only chance you get based on the owners, like what they're offering or how the bid works. But with taking the OpenSpace walk, you can come back and revisit it, right? You can come and get that 360 look. We can share that with our trade partners that are asking to bid the job. A lot of times trade partners have questions, what does this look like? We can pull right in and pull it in and get them that 360 view to help get that better price because they're actually able to see it. It also helps kind of eliminate that thing too, where it's like you had every opportunity to go out and look at it. There's less excuses of saying, well, I didn't get a chance to see it. Well, here's the link, go see it. You can actually open it up and you can see all the way around all the parts of it.
Right. Eliminating any excuse of no, I'm not able to go on site. Well, here's a link. You can see the existing conditions right here, behind your computer or on your phone. So would love to, because Landis has been really successful with adopting OpenSpace. So one question I have for you, and I guess I'll set the stage as well. You had a goal to really increase the capture frequency across all of your teams, and you tripled that. When we had a call a couple months ago, your teams had taken 3 times the amount of captures that they had previously. And so you were really successful with ensuring that adoption was increased and that everyone was capturing consistently and using OpenSpace in a way that will give you the maximum, value. I'd love to learn a little bit about recommendations you have for teams who are also trying to do the same thing and, incorporate a new software into their tech stack.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that it really kind of comes down to that, how do we do our PDCA, the plan, do, check, adjust, that continuous improvement. And a lot of what I'm talking about here too is lean comes from the Toyota production systems. And in that system, they talk a lot about when adopting new technology, you just don't go full go in, right? You go in 100%, you're taking a lot of risks. You need to be able to test it out and work it kind of almost like a beta. So we kind of approached it in a similar manner where I'd seen some stuff for you guys and said, okay, let's test it out on like one project, right? We got a camera, we tested it out. It was great on that one project. We said, okay, well, let's try to test it on 2 or 3 projects. Well, what we noticed when we did that was, hey, look, we only need this one camera. We're just going to share this camera around. And that actually proved to be a lot more difficult than we thought it would be, because at first I was the controller of the camera. So I'd be working with my superintendents. I would go drop it off on one site, bring it to another site, have to go back and forth. Then I got too busy and I was like, hey, superintendents, can you guys just pass this back and forth? They tried doing that. And of course, they're very busy, even busier than I am most times. And so we were noticing we weren't getting all the captures we wanted, and we thought of it. A lot of it's because we're trying to share this camera all along the way. So a big key point to that really was like, let's get some more cameras, right? Not right there, removing that block and that barrier to people actually doing it is one of the biggest things we had to help implementing it and get it going and rolling actually in a more regular fashion. But additionally, on top of that too, another barrier roadblock too is just people having the knowledge to do it, right? That you can't just go, here's a camera, here's the OpenSpace, go.
Right.
We've learned that you actually have to have a champion in each job. One of our champions for our Mont Leon team is Kate Bartels, right? You guys see her all the time. She's uploading stuff and she's the champion of field notes. Well, you have to have a champion each job that you kind of sign and then coach and then walk through that process of how you use it. And so now what we do is when I get a new PE, APM, well, part of our onboarding process is we send them that OpenSpace Academy that you guys have now. It's that virtual training and stuff. But additionally, before they take their first capture, I make sure we get together and I walk them through their first capture, right? Crawl, walk, run, where I actually first I show them on my phone, show them on my iPad, then I show them on their iPad, then we do a walk together. Then they go and they walk together, and then they do it on their own. And then from there, we're just kind of monitoring it. Another thing that's really helpful with that too, though, is you got to kind of continue to follow up with people to make sure there aren't any other barriers or something that's preventing them from doing it. So we like to get at least 2 captures a month. And then you guys send out like a notice if I have a capture that has been 2 weeks since the last capture. It's important that I kind of can reach out to that team and say, hey, is there any issues? Is there a problem? How can I help? It's real clear to note though that that's not meant to know like, why didn't you take a capture? It's more of a, I just want to make sure that there's not something that I can do to actually make it easier so they can take that capture. Maybe there's a problem. Is there a problem with the camera? Maybe there's some confusion, or hey, sometimes maybe they're just getting too busy, right? You got to understand some of that. And so is there a way I can help with that?
Right.
Stay on top of that, be a team and a coach as actually increasing those captures and uses.
I love everything that you shared there. And we actually had a question come in from another amazing customer that I work with, Jeff Rubino with Braun and Butler. Hi, Jeff. And you already answered the question, but in case you want to elaborate a little bit more, Jeff asked, how often do you capture? And you said twice a month. Is that the standard?
It's the standard. It's the standard shoot for. If we can get more, because it's an algorithm, right? The more you do it, the more the algorithm learns, the smarter it gets. So We're trying to get at least weekly is great. The other thing though that we really push hard on though is if we're going to cover something up, go get a capture, even if it's like a 1 minute capture. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was just covering up a small 3x3 pad. Well, I still went out there, wanted to take a capture of it, took a field note just because I wanted that data in there just in case. So covering things up, got to capture it up because that becomes so helpful if you ever got to look back in time and say, what was back here? You can do that split screen, right? That's really advantageous too. Say, hey, here it is now, here it is then. Here's exactly what's behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I know you share examples with me all the time. One was the fire marshal example.
Oh yeah, so we got a fire marshal walking through. It's like, hey, I don't remember inspecting this wall. It's been closed up. I need to make sure that the fire caulking and fireproofing is in. Well, without the camera, what do you got to do? You got to come in there. Now we got to cut a hole in the wall. That costs money and that costs time. What we can do is we actually pull up the camera and go, here's this wall on this date. Here it is on this date. And as you can see, here's all our fireproofing, everything in there. So, and he was able to take that picture, upload that to his report for verification, sign off that it was there anyway. And hey, you saved everybody a lot of headache, time, and money.
Yep. No one wants to do rework and spend that time. Just document everything, and then you'll be surprised with all the ways that you're saving a lot of time, money, and rework. Cool. So just to recap everything that I heard from you and just make sure that I heard it correctly, it sounds like identifying what the barriers are. And in your situation, you had the right people in place, but you didn't have enough cameras. So making sure that there were enough cameras on the job sites, really working with your champions like Kate, like Jamie, and others, just to make sure that they can also communicate that with other folks who are going to be using OpenSpace. And then also leaning on OpenSpace resources, the OpenSpace Academy, which is the online learning portal, and also your customer success manager and your support team.
Talking more about, you did, but talk more about the customer success manager. I think that's another thing that helped us to help push this along. Just because check-ins, regular conversations, or even if sometimes like there was an issue, like I remember one, it's interesting too, because I did a walk around my site, a big walk, and it actually looked like I walked in a circle in a room. And the pattern was right, but I need to spread it out about a mile. So within seconds, I contacted them. They sent back and go, is this what you wanted it to look like? Yep. And they fixed it like right then and there. And through that constant conversation and then that engagement we have too, because then it becomes this idea of like, well, you guys talk about things you're working on and then I get interested in it. Okay, well, can you tell me more about that? Or hey, how can I use that on my team and kind of keep things moving forward? So there's a lot to be said about the customer support management and the customer support engagement.
Absolutely. No, we have an amazing support team and also leaning on people like me and other customer success managers who can show you what's new, what's recently been released, what we're working on. Love all of that. Thanks for sharing. Your project management tool is Procore. And so I'd like for you to discuss how that is incorporated in your day-to-day and how you use that integration, because OpenSpace has an integration with Procore.
Well, Procore in general, I use it every day, all the time. So the way the integration works too, I'll be honest, I don't even remember my OpenSpace username and password because I just log in through Procore. So whether it's on my phone or even on that app, like in the computer, there's a nice easy drop down app button. You click on the app button, there's OpenSpace, click on that, pulls it right up. When I'm on my phone, I click open OpenSpace, it goes log in through Procore, click on that. So hopefully I don't ever have to, remember my password because it's all tied to Procore. Right. So that's one of the easiest integrations. Another integration we can use it for is with the field management, the field notes tool. You can actually push some of that stuff to observations. And Kate's one of the big users of that field and the field notes tool, and she uses it. One of the cool things about the field notes tool, I know she started doing, was you can actually assign notifications to her superintendent. So she's doing a walk, she goes out there, she sees an issue, takes a picture, they get notified, and they're like, oh, hey, look, I gotta get this fixed, right? And it's just turning that to an observation within the observations tab.
I know, I think once teams realize that they can take a field note directly on site without the camera and just pin it to a specific location, it kind of blows their mind because of how easy it is. And also you can incorporate that into your PM systems like Procore. You can download a single PDF of it. That way your subcontractor can see the issue itself, where it is on the floor plan, and any other context that you've given. So great job, Kate.
I attach it to RFIs a lot too. That's a nice, easy thing to do. Like if I have an RFI out there, I got an architect or somebody needs a look or a picture, going right in there and taking not only the field note, I can actually attach that whole like a 360 image to that RFI through OpenSpace through that integration tool.
Love it. It's makes users much more inclined to use OpenSpace if they're able to just have a single sign-on.
Yeah, it's all about going to efficiency, right? Less clicks get me there.
Exactly. And you would discuss, customer feedback, and given your role, you have a large tech stack and you're dealing with multiple different vendors. Anything that you want to share about when we release new products? I know you briefly touched on this as well about betas that we work on. But if you want to share anything additional to that as well, feel free.
Yeah, I know like you guys have tons of beta programs that are out there. It's always interesting to learn what you're working on and how do we get involved with it. But the appreciative part about that too is going back to that thought process. How do we roll things out like the toy production systems is you got to test the little things, find the quirks first. Because if you just start pumping stuff out, hey, we got this.
Yep.
You're going to find yourself a lot of like hangups, bugs, and everything else. And me as an end user is going to get really frustrated.
Right.
Why isn't this working? So instead of trying to figure the problems out before rolling it out to the customer, you guys do a lot of test programs to do your plan, do, check, adjust, right? The PDCA and continuous improvement through the beta programs. It's interesting. I always find it cool how I learn about these beta programs is through our engagement. And you talk about something cool, like, oh, wait, can I be involved with that? Now I know it going into it, like, okay, maybe there's going to be some quirks, but that's the idea, right? You're going to let me test it. And quirks. I think the one I really want to try next is you guys are going to be working on a measurement tool. And how we actually calculate the measurements. So on my job, I'm very excited to be part of that beta program, kind of come through. I think we're also a part of the punch list beta program, and things we learned about there too. And talking to my field team, not everything's perfect, and so we talked about how some of the things that we're still working on, where the punch list program needs to be a little bit of work here and there. And you guys are very open to that. We talk about how we click so that it looks more like it more easily integrates into Procore. So that's the fun part about the beta stuff too, is after we kind of test it a little bit, we can talk about it and be part of the improvement process.
We want to hear your feedback, and we want you to tell us when you don't, something doesn't quite check all of the boxes, because we want to build, make sure that our product is checking all those boxes. And yeah, you never know what a customer is going to be excited about, because we do have a ton of different betas, but the measurement tool beta will be really exciting. Mehul on our product team is currently working on that, and essentially it'll give users the ability to take measurements in the actual capture view using point cloud densification. And then I know Jeff, who's on this call, was interested in the time-lapse feature that we're currently building. So yep, if you're ever curious, anyone else that's on the call, just reach out to your customer success manager. Okay. So the title of this webinar is how Landis uses OpenSpace to go and see. I learned a new term from Jeremy, and that's a Gemba walk. I didn't know what that was before. Would you mind sharing what a Gemba walk is before we talk about how it's used within OpenSpace?
Yeah, and look, Gemba walks are really serious, but really important. A good story to tell to kind of explain what a Gemba walk is really about, right? It's about having when those leaders at the top can get out from behind the desk, right, and go down and see the work, see the process to understand it, to either fix a problem or improve upon it. A good story to tell us to that toy production system with Ochiona, where he would go down for a Gemba walk to the manufacturer floor, draw a circle around himself. And the circle wasn't there for him to keep people from coming in, so that he would remind himself mentally not to step out. So he would take the time to observe the process, observing and understanding what he's looking at. And then as he stepped out to engage the frontline worker, he would ask those important questions. What is it you're doing? How could you do this better? What do you need to be successful? And my favorite thing is he always used to end it with the comment of, what can I do to make your job better? right? And then he would come back and you have these questions, you have to document, how do I actually do it? How do I put it into action, create the action item? And that's kind of where we kind of go into OpenSpace, right? So when you do a Gemba, it's like a real simple process. First, prepare for the Gemba. Make sure you have the right people, make sure you have the right documents, do a little research, understand what you're looking, okay? And that comes to making sure you have a purpose. You just don't go aimlessly wander the job site. Have a purpose to actually going out and seeing what you're looking at. Why are you there, right? Then you go and conduct the Gemba. When you're conducting the Gemba, it's a lot of observation. You know, you don't just jump in and start engaging with people. Sit back, take time to really understand what you're looking at. And then when you engage with that humble inquiry, right? You're not immediately giving answers, you're asking questions. You know, why do you do it this way? How could you do it better? What could you do differently? After that's all done, you gotta come back and actually take that and say who, what, and when, right? If you don't have those, it's not an action item. Somebody's gotta do something, somebody's gonna know when to have it get done or it never gets done. And so oftentimes too, though, you gotta think like, oh, how do I capture this, right? Well, we take our phones, we're taking pictures and trying to take all this stuff. Well, if you use OpenSpace or take that hard hat, walk out there, come back, and now I have a 360 view of what we just did our Gemba walk on. So we can really go back and observe and take a look at what action items we need to develop based on the walk we just took. Additionally, too, I really found it really useful too, because when you talk about going to a Gemba, you got to have the right people there. Well, sometimes you got that architect who's 4 feet away, right? And he's important to be there. And so have him be part of that conversation. Sure, we can do our FaceTime with our phones, but having that additional 360 view that he can be a part of through the link, when we go back and actually start working through the problem, now I don't have to have him right there at the table. He can pull the link up and he's got the whole view of what we're looking at to solve the problem.
And you were telling me that you were trying to resolve a chemical feed tie-in, right? And could you share?
Yeah, one of our recent ones here too is the same thing. We had some issues like how do we make this tie-in. So we took it out there, did our gimbal walk, took a look at the actual tie-in points, looked and we were able to actually see everything that was there, whether it was the heights and depths. That's kind of where some of the measurement tool would have come in handy then. And using that in the future would be real helpful to where we can say, okay, this is where we need to make this tie-in, or maybe we need to come over here. But we're able to send a link out, have people look at it, and actually resolve the problem that much faster.
Yep, just send it to the architect and the engineer, and it's a way that you can actually act on everything process improvement wise that came from that Gemba walk. It's just by taking a capture.
Yeah.
I'd like to also talk a little bit about all of the volunteer work that you do with lean construction. How does OpenSpace support lean construction? And I know that you do volunteer work for NOLA Lean, right? New Orleans Community of Practice. Tell me about that and where OpenSpace fits in.
Well, OpenSpace fits into lean, kind of when we're looking at our 6 tenets of lean, but really focusing on things like optimizing the whole. Mm-hmm. And, when we talk about optimizing the whole, it's also talking about making sure we encompass all of our tenets of lean, but also about how do we bring the entire team in? How do we bring people together to work through a plan, work through a problem? Like we said before, with OpenSpace, we can better optimize the whole by sharing out that link, right? And bringing people from far away that can't necessarily be co-located with us to help us work through the problem. Because now when we're looking at this helps us to faster eliminate waste, right? Waste of shooting emails back and forth, the waste of trying to look at pictures, waste of excess processing. And we eliminate that waste, right? We do that because what are we trying to do? Focus on flow. Because we focus on flow, we generate value. Generating value not just for our client, though, but I'm thinking about the customer. And when we talk about customers in lean, it's not the guy signing the check. To me, that's a client. Right? Our customers are the men, women, and those putting work into place next to us, right? It's the guy or gal coming after it. So if I got a metal stud trade, he's handing off to the electrician. Well, that electrician is the customer of the metal stud trade. So when we look about how we create generating value for our customers, we want to focus on flow by eliminating waste and having the open space kind of as we do some of these gimbal walks or do waste walks, we're actually going out there seeking waste to eliminate. The OpenSpace 360 capture allows us to better document that. So as we're coming through and creating a plan, we can easily reference that with 360 view. And
also eliminate the email fatigue that ties into the waste. But
yes, yeah, that's one of my excess processing. One of my number one. I hate that I have to send so many emails, but we really do try to just let's make a phone call, let's jump on here, look at it, and try to send a confirming RFI. We don't always get there, but we sure try to have those conversations. So we're not sending out RFI, getting a question in the RFI, then asking the question, then answering the question.
Right.
And trying to get to that point where we break down the silos and bring people together.
Right. And this is another question I thought of. So maybe for someone who's not as tech savvy that you're working on an issue with, do you just get on a phone call on a Teams meeting and share your screen, or do you create a link to a shared folder, or what does that look like?
Man, any chance I can share a screen like right then and there, the better.
Mhm.
Whether it's Teams, Zoom, any of those platforms that I can do a screen share. COVID was horrible, but man, I learned a lot from it, and that was one of the silver linings. There is now we can do meetings like we're doing right now, right? We can actually share and go across it. We're not just limited to our little community. We have a world that we can work to and bring people in through these virtual meetings.
Yep. You don't need to get on a plane and fly for 5 hours. You can just do it in 20 minutes behind your computer. Great. Well, my final question before we open it up for questions is, if someone were interested in pursuing a role similar to yours, do you have any recommendations on places to get started, or, courses that you recommend?
Well, I would say getting started in the lean too, go to the Lean Construction Institute site. You can Google leanconstructioninstitute.com and it'll come right up for .org. But they have tons of options there. There's a lot of virtual training that comes through. Getting involved with your local community of practice for lean. So like with the local community practice, someone out there's a community practice. Get involved with those people. Find someone who has that same passion of continuous improvement. If you don't know about lean, that's fine. You can learn about it, but having the passion to always be seeking to get better, that's where this community is really about, is this idea of continuous improvement and always getting better and better. And from there, always have an open mindset, willing to be a sponge and learn from others, humble inquiry, understand you don't know it all, that's okay, but you're willing to learn it all, right? Everybody you talk to has got something to offer. And then that kind of ties into one of my things that, like, as you're trying to be a coach or a mentor of people in this role, is understanding that everybody has their own perception. We have to understand what that perception is as we're entering into it. But you don't want to start off being like, I'm going to tell you how to fix this. Ask those questions with the humble inquiry. Ask the why did you do it this way? What would you do better? Understanding how they view things will help you better understand how you could help solve their problem. It may even change your mind a little bit and make you understand their situation and maybe there's a problem you didn't understand.
Having an open mind is a lot easier said than done, but it's really important. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Cool.
So is it question time? What do we got?
Yeah, we're good on time. We have some time for questions. There are a couple already in the chat, but
okay,
please feel free to ask other questions as you have them, folks that are still on the line. I'll start off with one. What cameras do you use?
So I'm using the RS361. Love that camera. Did much better for low light conditions. It's also a great price point. Another thing too, when it comes to low light conditions, I forgot the name of it already, but you guys have recommended like a halo light. That thing's cool. It's also very not very expensive. Something you get off of Amazon. I actually bought one to have my own because it literally just lights up everything around you. But then when I'm saying that too, I'm talking that would take low lights. Like if I'm in a dark room, that'll light up the room enough for the camera to take the capture.
Right. Yes, I agree with everything Jeremy said. The Insta360 1RS 1-inch is the best recommendation that I have for customers who are starting out, or if they want to start using a new camera. Dual 1-inch sensors. Yeah, I'm just going to repeat everything Jeremy said, but absolutely. And then yes, I think it's the Illumigear ring light halo that wraps around your headlamp. I mean your hard hat. Yeah.
They got a lot of other cool stuff on that website too.
Yes. Yep. We have an OpenSpace storefront that's live now as well. So reach out to support@openspace.ai or your customer success manager if you'd like a link to that. There was another question as well, because you'd mentioned OpenSpace Academy, our online learning portal, where you can just send it to users so they can start capturing and using OpenSpace. And you can find that by going to learn.openspace.ai, and then it'll have all the different learning modules there. And if you complete them all, you can publish your certifications on LinkedIn as well, which interns really love. Okay, so we have another question. Jeremy, how do you validate the cost of OpenSpace to someone who's looking at a dollar sign at the bottom of a quote?
Anything. there, right? We talked about that. So insurance is, you get them to give you a discount because of OpenSpace is just paid for the year. Like that. A waste of value too. Like I said, we're having to tear open a wall. Yeah, if I don't have to tear it open to see what's back there, if you can do a time lapse. But also that ties into too, you know, you're say you're doing for hanging something.
Sorry, I think it cut out for just a second.
Oh, so the other, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the other thing on examples is, you know, say you're in a high rise or building a multi-story building, you got like PEX plumbing pipe in there, and you go to screw in a screw. I've definitely been in a situation where you're hitting that pipe full of water. You know, it's after the fact. Now you got water kind of coming down, damages and costs for that. You can actually do the OpenSpace and say, hey, look, let's take a look at where this pipe's at. And that's the other exciting thing about the measurement tool. You can get real accurate. You're like, don't put the screw there.
Right.
That's exactly where the pipe's at. And so you can avoid tons of costs there. I mean, that alone will pay for another year's worth of OpenSpace.
Single source of truth. It's your insurance policy. You're documenting everything. So you avoid the back and forth, avoid the rework. There's time, cost, everything's associated with it. All right, another question. Jeremy, where do you recommend learning more about Gemba walks?
Lincoln Construction Institute. They're going back into their website, or find one of your local, you're in New Orleans, excuse me, if you're in New Orleans, my community of practice, reaching out to those community practices. And I'll find too. And that's the other thing too, when you get involved, you actually sign up with the Lincoln Construction Institute. It's 100% free to sign up, but it'll start letting you do things like you'll get email notifications of learning events and opportunities within your area or virtually. It'll help you link into your community of practice as well. And then too, there's other options that throw that, a lot of that virtual training that they offer.
Do you have a favorite course or training that you've listened to or that you've run yourself?
One of my favorites to go through is the intermediate last planner system. So instead of intro to last planner, now we're getting our hands actually dirty and actually working through a project. Boschify my site recently did a thing called the Lean Roadshow. And when they came in, so we did the intermediate version of last planner, actually working through a problem. They had the sticky notes on one group, and they had their group here who are actually going through and working through their virtual system as we kind of work through it. So it was pretty cool and it's fun to do and play around, taking that, going from the sticky notes into that next level where we're actually like playing in the virtual world and doing last planner.
I like that. That sounds like a fun exercise. Let's see, a couple other interesting questions. Will you explain community of practice? Is it a regional chapter?
Yeah, so we're just what it is. We are a community, right? A community of like-minded people, passionate and driven to basically improve our industry. And so I say community of practice, it's our local, whether, you know, for New Orleans, we're kind of branching out and covering more areas like in the Baton Rouge, but some areas are big enough too. They have multiple within the same city, right? Depending on how big your region is. But yeah, that's all it is your local folks that believe in what you believe in and want to drive the mission to improve the industry.
I love it. Oh, I think this is the best question I've seen today. What was the hardest old school practice for you to break personally?
Old school. Let's talk about the word old school first. I'm not a fan of the term old school. I know there's some things that are good and positive about it, but think about it like this. When you're old, what are we? We're just that more closer to death, right? So right. Our old school, we're telling me that we're just, if you're not willing to learn and change, you're just that much more closer to being irrelevant. Right. So the idea is we don't want to be old school. We want to be open-minded. We want to be looking for change and willing to understand what we can improve upon. There are some good old school tactics and techniques still exist, and they're out, you know, that have some validity. That's not what we want to be. We want to be forever adapting and ever changing and ever growing. But for me, the hardest one to break, and it's going to be probably hard for people to believe this, but I once a long time ago got put on a review that Jeremy leaves a trail of battered and bruised people behind him. So think about it the way the construction industry is, right? It's that old GC mentality. Do what I say because I said it. And I'm not letting you ask questions. You missed it by one day. Here's your nasty grand email. I'm beating you up for not doing it right, not, you know, being a team spirit. I once had someone tell me that the rule of the GC is to get as much free out of the trade partner as possible. The rule of the owner is to get as free out of the GC. And that kind of even that mindset was an old school thing that kind of, I came out of it, didn't like it. It was just like, okay, this is the way it is. Until I got more into lean, and lean reminds me more of how I did things in the military, more team spirited, more one unit, more respect for everybody as a unit and a whole. And so that's what really was refreshing, but it was hard to get out of that where it's not an immediate, like, here's your last email, here I'm gonna shake my fist at you. It took learning lean to understand respect for people and what that means, to getting back to my own military ways of running and creating collaboration.
That I really appreciate your honest response there. And I know it's hard to break out of old patterns or just old stereotypes of the way people say it's just like this, you know. And I know you're doing you're leading a course next month, I believe, on, you know, how trades and GCs can.
Oh yeah, that's actually a spot like that for anybody in New Orleans wants to come. Next week on the 24th, anybody who's listening to this, we are working with the American Subcontractors Association of Greater Baton Rouge to bring GCs and trade partners together, because that's where often tension lies, right? And even then, right, it's called the American Subcontractor Association. Legally, they call it subcontractors. I couldn't get the lawyers to want to change that, right? But they're not subcontractors, they're trade partners, right? They're people we work with to actually get the job done. We all have our roles to play as a team. So we want to bring them together to talk about what can we do better to create a better partnership. You know, talking about things like, hey, look, at the end of a job, how do we make sure we still have a good relationship?
Right.
You know, what are some key aspects to make sure that we can also bring up and educate our trade partners from the GC level? But it'll be in Gonzales. Feel free to contact me. I can send you an invite link. But we're getting together with them next. Be a happy hour too. So come have a drink as we kind of dive into, you know, our shared problems with the industry and how do we improve them together.
Thank you. I wish I lived in New Orleans, but I'll need to. I do need to think about there. And that is a great testament to lean. We'd love to maybe take a snippet of that quote that you shared.
Feel free.
With, you know, on a similar vein, how much of OpenSpace do you share with your trade partners on a project? Do you invite them as a member, or what does that look like?
I mean, I don't want to give them control to where they can edit things, because that just they could be things. I'm an open book.
Yep.
Everybody come invite everybody to see it. The more people that can see it, the more going back to optimizing the whole, right? I want everybody in the project. I don't get as much participation as I like. Like I send out links all the time. I'm like, sign up. You can see it whenever you want. It's good too, because if you get those trade partners that are coming way down the line, you know, and you sign them up early, they get this link, and as you're kind of working, they can check on it when we're doing captures and go, okay, this is about where they're at in the project. It gives them the opportunity to also monitor where the project's at, so they can know, shoot, I need to start gearing up.
Right. It's meant to support everyone and help everyone, because like you said earlier, everyone's on the same team. They all have the same goal. Yeah. Thank you.
These are good questions.
These are really good questions. Well, I think that was pretty much everything. Still happy to take other questions if anyone else has them. But Jeremy, this was wonderful. I really enjoy working with you, and thank you so much for sharing all of this. What's your email address in case anyone has questions for you?
Oh, yeah, it's can I type it into chat?
Sure. Yeah, you can type it in the chat.
Can type it in so everybody can see it.
I can type it in too.
Everyone.
See it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, please reach out to me, especially if you want to talk about lean. I'll talk about that all day long. Or if you just have other questions about OpenSpace or anything in general, if I can be a resource to anybody out there, I'd love to be helpful to people.
Thank you so much. Oh, there is another comment from Jeff. It would be nice to have a user level for subs to post their own field notes. I agree. I think that's a really great idea. I know that Michaela and a couple of other product managers are focusing on more granular permission levels, similar to Procore, where, you know, they have a subcontractor permission level. And yeah, because to Jeremy's point, if you invite a subcontractor as a viewer, they can't comment on those field notes. So Jeff, that's a really, really good idea, and we're working on it. Permissions is a very big request that we keep getting, so I know that we'll incorporate that soon. Okay. And then we also have an OpenSpace online community with which, Jeff, I'm going to share with you after our call today. It'd be really great to just have you voice those ideas, because other customers are in the community, and they can all vote yes on it, and our product teams in the community as well. So I'll send you an email after our call or after this webinar.
That'd be my recommendation too. If people like you talked about before, if you want to know what natives are coming on, or you want to get involved with that. I mean, if you just have a good idea, reach out to that customer support representative. Like I'll reach out to Georgia, like I have this idea. And it's amazing how much you guys actually listen to what I say. And you're like, okay, and it actually starts to come to fruition. So they're definitely, it's not like one of those companies where you give them an idea and it doesn't go anywhere. Like there's been several things we've talked about. The next thing I know, it's like, hey, you're actually working on it. That's pretty cool.
Right. And we want you to you're never bugging us, keep reminding us, because there are a lot of things that our product team's focusing on, but we prioritize them based on how many requests we receive and the importance level. So yeah. All right. I know you're on the job site, so I'll let you hop, but Jeremy, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
And thank you, everyone.
Guys. Hope to hear from you guys too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.